Hi, I'm Nancy. Welcome to Mindful Yoga. Today, our practice is going to be around the concept of tensile strength, the strength in our connective tissue that is an uplifting kind of strength that enables us to stand upright and move, a resistance to gravity that gives a balance to the compressive forces that ground us and that bring around a balance between that force of tensegrity, as it is called, that buoyancy of the connective tissue, and the compressive forces that are more the heaviness of the body in the bones. Let's come to a standing position. Just taking a mountain pose, this foundational pose of yoga. Let our feet be directly under our hips, the sides of the feet parallel with the ends of the mat, so the big toes are just the slightest bit pigeon-toed in. Relax down through the feet. Let that letting go of tension come up through the calves, the knees, and the thighs. So even as we are holding ourselves up, we are letting tension go through the cartilage, through the wrappings of the muscles, a little bit through the soft tissues of the muscles as well, the ligaments, the tendons, up through the pelvic bowl, the organs, inside the torso, the heart, allowing shoulders to be soft, arms to be long and heavy, fingertips feeling a little heavy as they connect down to the earth, long in the back of the neck, a little lift up the back of the throat. Head buoyant over the shoulders, loose neck. Already we are beginning to encourage the buoyancy of our connective tissue, the fascia throughout us that wrap everything in our bodies, bones and muscles. Even the blood vessels are a kind of connective tissue, as well as lymph nodes. We're bringing buoyancy simply by letting tension go, grounding down, and in that grounding down, allowing, with the release of tension, to experience a kind of lightness and floating quality up through the body, allowing full play to that tensile strength throughout the connective tissue. Let's bring our feet just a little wider apart and continue letting go of some of the tension as we begin to pour into one leg, allowing the other side of the body to be quite empty. Pour into the other, empty on the other side. Thanks to Chris Holmes, body worker at Kripalu, who is my teacher in this particular exposition of tensile strength. And then slowly let one knee come in and the groin to fold in as the body begins like a cylinder to turn back and forth, shoulders continuing to be over hips, ribs over hips, hips over feet. Letting the belly button lead the way as you go around. Arms begin to just enter in naturally. We have a kind of gooey matrix throughout our body in the connective tissue. And it's one of the first things to develop in our embryonic development. The spine, in fact, starts as a notochord of cartilage, becomes cartilage. It's a kind of a gooey matrix, and into it grow the vertebrae. Bones grow in to the connective tissue of the arms and the legs and so on. So we think of skeleton as holding us up, but in fact, no bones really touch each other. They all are embedded in this gooey matrix. They grow into the gooey matrix. For example, the vertebrae grow into the discs, into the wrappings of the muscles around, into the ligaments that hold together the vertebrae. The humerus grows into the connective tissue that surrounds it. And that connective tissue is just a little bit shorter than the bones. So when the bones first start to develop into it, mineral salts crystallizing, they give a little stretch to the connective tissue surrounding them. This causes a certain kind of pre-tension, a kind of tension in the connective tissue. It stretches it a little bit and provides for some tension that's already there. Let's begin to tap as hands come to the eyes of the shoulders. Letting that tap drum its way with vibrations through the connective tissues of the body. Allowing it to permeate, relieve tension, and then coming down to the sides of the breast area. And down to the sides of the waist. Into the breastbone. A little love tap or a drum. Allowing this drumming or tapping to let the tension flow out of these parts of the body, to let us feel a little bit more. Be aware of our bodies, of places that can use a little bit more lightness, that can let go of some old, tired, murky energy, and let light enter in. So coming down the front of the body, and then one hand to the front of the waist and one to the back of the waist, and one to the front of the sacrum and one to the back of the sacrum and the front of the lower abdomen. And slowly letting that unwind, just standing here, sensing that buoyancy, that vibration, the aliveness throughout our connective tissue. We encourage this tensile strength through movement, such as we're doing right now. Movement starts a certain amount of thermal energy, warmth in the connective tissue. We encourage it through hydration. Bring hands forward, knees bend slightly, arms reach out to the sides, loosen the elbows, wrists, and shoulders, and then fold in. Inhale, spread out, wide through the collarbone. Feeling the connective tissue hydrating. We can encourage this tensile strength of the connective tissue by keeping hydrated ourselves, drinking water, breathing through our nose at night rather than our mouth, and letting tension go. Allowing the body to be just what it is, allowing it to do its job completely. And bring the hands down. Our body is created to stand tall, to move through space. So keeping our skeleton tall, and particularly our spine, encourages the buoyancy and juiciness of the connective tissue. Even our breathing helps. As we breathe, let's just do it for a moment. We're always breathing, but thinking about it for a moment. Allowing the diaphragm to generously dip down as you inhale, and as you exhale, draw up. As the diaphragm dips down, the ribs, the lower ribs, expand on the sides and the back. Just for a few breaths, be very conscious of that. Inhaling, the sides and back, lower ribs expand. You can feel the ribs expanding. And as you exhale, let the lower ribs relax down and the shoulder blades in the back relax down. The ribs come around the body from the front and connect to the spine. They connect into the discs and into little bones on top of the disc and below the disc, kind of in behind the vertebrae. So we can not only imagine, but it is actually the fact that as we breathe and allow our ribs to expand, we are giving massages to our discs. We are encouraging the juiciness of our connective tissue in our spine. So we engage with this sense of uplift, of length and strength in our webbing. And then back to the breath for just a moment. On the inhale, allowing the ribs to expand, and then as your breath lengthens, bringing it up, which it does naturally, coming up behind the heart, in front of the heart, under the arms, expanding out like a helium balloon, light and floating, and then letting everything relax down, just letting tension go with the exhale. 2 more breaths. Expanding through the lower ribs, letting the breath float up like a light balloon, letting tension and tired energy go on the exhale. And 1 more time. So this breathing itself brings life and allows life and buoyancy to move through our connective tissue. We want to keep this elongation in the spine. Bring one hand up and let one hand stay down. Press into the foot on the side with the arm up, becoming long on that side, feeling the length through the spine, and then relaxing down a bit so that you're letting tension go. Now we're going to come over into side bend. Let the side bend come to the ribs. So particularly a bowing out here in the ribs, and a little bit down through the hip. And bring that arm down the center to rest along the side. Other arm rises up. Reach up, feel the length from the hand above you to the foot below. Then bowing out through the ribs so that there's a nice smooth spine. And then coming back up, bringing the hand down the center. We'll do that a few times on each side. Other hand comes up, becoming long, elongating through the spine, and then allowing a nice smooth curve to the thoracic mid-spine as you come into the side bend, coming down the center, reaching up with the other side. There's the tendency in the spine to hinge, and there are several places where hinging can occur quite easily. One of those is between the lumbar lower 5 vertebrae and the thoracic vertebrae that come up from the waist. So really right at the back of the waist, there's a convenient hinging place. And if we come over too far in a side bend, we can hinge there. That's not only a convenient hinge, it's a place that often wears and tears because we do hinge there. So we're doing this side bend in a way that will keep a long, smooth spine and allow the connective tissue to remain supple. Connective tissue is elastic and it's plastic. So the plasticity gives it its kind of stiffness, its ability to hold us upright. It's elastic in that, yes, it can move, and some is more elastic than others. Obviously, a blood vessel is a lot more elastic than the cartilage in your nose. We want to maintain both sides of this, the elasticity in the discs and the ligaments of the spine, for example, as well as the plasticity, which gives us stability. So we don't want to go too far in the side bend in either direction in order to maintain that plasticity. We're now going to come into a back bend. If you have a block, put it between your thighs, and if you don't have a block, that's perfectly fine. We're going to be standing square on our feet, weight coming from the hips down through the heels. Oh, by the way, a small pillow would be fine too, or simply with the sense of standing with a slight internal rotation of the deep inner thighs. That happens pretty naturally when you have a block or pillow in here, but it can also happen just by doing that. Bring the sits bones together just a bit. By so doing, we're building a firm base here for the spine. Now relax down through the legs, let tension go through the legs, down through the feet. Bring the hands to the heart, firm up through the upper belly. Then extend up the front of the spine, from the sacrum up through the neck, extending up the front of the spine, keeping that centeredness in the spine as well as elongation. One more time. Elongating through the spine as you open through the center of the body, which is more or less the front of the spine, and come back up. And one more time, relaxing down, letting the tension go from legs and feet, squeezing sits bones together a little bit, deep inner thighs, turn in slightly, firm through the upper belly. No hinging here at the back of the waist, rather a nice smooth spine coming up, a little tuck in the chin, and bring it back up. Let's come into chair. Hands out in front, palms facing each other. You'll notice the sits bones widen out in the back. Come back up, hands come to the heart. Sits bones squeeze together slightly, deep inner thighs turn in, relax down through legs and feet. Upper belly is firm. Open up through the front of the spine. Small back bend is enough to maintain this. Come forward into a chair. Feel the sits bones coming away from each other and opening up into a smooth, supple spine without overdoing your back bend, and coming back into chair. Now let's bring the hands down to the shins. Extend out from the sacrum out through the crown as hands press into the shins. Shoulder blades are coming down towards the waist gently. Bend knees, hips come out to the back into chair. Sits bones now narrow in as you come up. Deep inner thighs are rolling in. Upper belly is firm. Back bend. Down through chair. Sits bones widen into half forward fold, long through the spine. Centering and elongating through the spine itself maintains the juiciness of the connective tissue. Hips out to the back. This time, let the hands come up overhead. Shoulders remain relaxed down. Firm through the upper belly. Enjoying a back bend practice that is quite nourishing to the body. Coming down into chair. Half fold. Back into chair. Arms come up, shoulders rest down, tips of the shoulder blades down. And bring the hands down and around. An ongoing back bend practice is a good one to practice to keep the connective tissue quite buoyant, but with that caveat that you don't want to hinge right here at the back of your waist, nor do you want to hinge here between your cervical spine of the neck and the spine of the middle spine. So this is another place where we can really hinge. Keeping a little bit of tuck in the chin protects you in that area. Let's come into a warrior two. So still considering this tensile strength and how we can encourage that in our normal practice of yoga. If you have a chair or a block, put it out in front of you. You might be beside a couch where you can go to. We're going to be doing warrior two, and then we'll be coming into half moon. So a block or chair or something there to bring your hand down on will be a good prop. So coming into warrior two position, adjusting as you need to. If this back hip needs to come forward just a little bit, it's okay. Feeling the long centralized spine lifting up, grounding down through the feet, letting tension go through the feet and the legs, trusting gravity, feeling that floating up, uplifting buoyancy through the connective tissue as the arms come out. Maybe flip the palms so shoulder blades rest down the back, and then flip them back. Taking the traditional warrior two position, breathing generously through the lower ribs, up through the heart area, sending energy out through the fingertips into the world. Now we're going to come over into side angle. And here I want to be thinking about that connective tissue and keeping elongation in the connective tissue of the spine. Often we come over very far in this, and we don't want to hinge at the back of the waist. So let's start a little gingerly, keeping that length, not coming down with the shoulders quite so much, feeling that bowing out right here through the ribs on the top of the side of the body. And maybe not coming down quite so far. The more you come down, make sure there's more elongation up through that leg, up through the spine, through the crown, and up through the fingertips. Then we'll sweep back with that back arm. Other arm reaches up, stargazing warrior, but let's think about this as a side bend. So here as we reach up, allow a bow to develop here in the rib cage. So the rib basket bows out a little bit here, keeping that long, supple, smooth spine. And back into side angle, feeling that centeredness in the spine, elongation in the spine, respecting and giving life to the connective tissue in that arm as it comes up, in the spine, bowing out a little bit here, and coming back through warrior two. Let the front ribs knit down and the lower tips of the shoulder blades knit down. Elongate through the spine, not unnaturally, but by just letting tension go and allowing the body to be upright, to take its natural place in its buoyant resistance of gravity. And bring the hands in. We're going to turn the toes in a bit. Hands come to the hip creases, come forward, torso parallel to the earth, and then you might have a block here or not. Fingertips might come down to the earth. Feel the hips lifting up. Relax the feet down through the mat. Feel the liveliness of the connective tissue becoming buoyant in your legs and up through your pelvic bowl and your hips. Then walk forward into a downward dog with a wide angle through the feet. As the hips push back slightly, hands are wide on the earth. And feel the juiciness of the connective tissue up through the arms, through the shoulders, through the sides of the body, up through the organs and the muscles and the coverings of the muscles all around the body, lifting up through the hips, and then coming back to the feet, letting the mind experience that buoyancy that lifts up through all the connective tissue in the legs, the knees, and the hips. Then coming back, before you come up, bring the hands to the waist, then bring the torso parallel and strong through the core. Come all the way up. Let's come into half moon on this side. So we're on the same side. Bring the weight into the front foot, back foot up on the toes. The body begins to come down onto the block, or perhaps you're coming down onto a chair or a couch. Back leg can stay where it is comfortable. Maybe it doesn't come up all the way to be parallel, or maybe it does. What is your version of half moon? Opening up, letting that buoyancy lift you up, becoming light, strong through the core, accepting the gravity through the foot and the hand, and lifting up with lightness and radiance through the rest of the body. And bending the front knee, come down. And bring your block to the other side. And we'll do warrior two on this side. So coming into warrior two on the other side, flipping the palms, bringing them back, shoulder tips down towards the waist, and front ribs, a little bit knitted down so you can be open through the shoulders, but the shoulders are not coming back. The front ribs are down. Take a moment just to feel the groundedness of the feet. Let some tension go through the legs and the feet. Trust in the buoyancy of this supportive web of connective tissue throughout your body. Letting tension go so you can feel that aliveness. And then coming over into side angle, aware of keeping the elongation in the spine. Coming over just as far as is right for your body, both bones and connective tissue. And then coming back, hand comes to the back thigh, bowing out a bit here on the front side of the ribs. And then coming back into side angle. Connective tissue of the spine, all the fascia, plump and juicy, not getting frayed or worn, enjoying its elasticity, its movement, while trusting that you're not going to make it unstable. Coming back, hands come to the waist. Back foot comes forward, weight comes into that front foot, and then bring the hand down to perhaps a chair or a block. Back foot rises up. Allow the fascia, the ligaments, the tendons, all the wrappings of the muscles to lift up and out. Heart, organs, opening to the world for 3, 2, and 1. Bend the knee and bring it down. Let's end in a lying position. And as we come down into this lying position, we're going to roll. So making yourself a little ball, a hug with your hands across the shins interlaced. We're going to roll back along the sides of our spine, So one side of the spine and then the other side of the spine, just not directly on the vertebrae. Giving some massage to that, the wrappings of the muscles, the ligaments, the various connective tissue around nerves. And then we'll lie back. I'm going to do a bridge pose here. So arms are along the side, knees are bent, and feet are soles flat. And the feet are about 4 or 5 inches below the buttocks. Widen the shoulders, particularly the collarbone, as the shoulder blades tuck in, elbows coming towards the waist, palms down. Let the glutes be strong as they lift the hips up. Here again, attention to the elongation of the spine, long through the front of the quads, the thighs, long from knees to hips, and long from hips up through shoulders, allowing the connective tissues to be plump and juicy, strong but not tense, and bring everything down. Once again, tucking in the shoulder blades, elbows towards the waist, back muscles strong as they lift the body, cradling the organs in the front of the body. Come on to the heels, lifting the toes slightly, engaging connective tissue and muscles up through the front of the shins, feeling the length from the knees up through the hips. Hips to the shoulders, just a straight line there is enough. Long in the back of the neck. If you'd like to interlace fingers, you can. And if you want to bring your toes down, that's fine too. So keeping elongation in the spine, allowing your breath to be centered, moving to be hydrated, warmed, enjoying the strength, a kind of tensile strength that balances the compressive forces in our body. And bring everything down. Extend the legs out. The right leg remains extended. The left foot comes up by the right thigh. Move the hips over towards the left. Left foot on right thigh. Right hand draws that knee across. Make sure your hips are stacked, so we're not bringing too much force onto the connective tissue around the vertebrae in the lower area below the waist, the lumbar spine, or in the vertebrae themselves. Allow tension to dissipate, relaxing down through hips, the backs of the thighs, backs of knees, down the calves, the bottom of the feet. Nourishing the connective tissues that appear in so many different forms in our bodies, that allow us to move and live with health. Release that knee, center the hips, left leg extends out, right foot comes up by left thigh, hips come over to the right slightly, right foot on left thigh, left hand rolls the body across. Make sure the hips are stacked. Find a comfortable place here. Letting go through the waist, long through the spine, a little bit of a spiral here, but one that allows the spine to remain smooth, unhinged, allows the spinal tissue to be long and light. Tracing that spinal tissue up through the back of the body, behind the heart, into the neck, connecting to the fascia that surrounds our skull, connecting down across our face to the fascia, connective tissue that surrounds the bones and muscles of our face. Letting any tension that can be let go dissolve into the earth. Release and come over. Extend out for a moment. Lift up with one hand on a wrist, lifting that arm up and extending down through the heel of that leg. Feeling long. And on the other side, stretching connective tissue and muscles, bringing softness, relaxation, but as we know now, also a strength to the body, a tensile strength. And coming over on your side for a moment and bringing yourself up. Let's close with an Om together, exercising the connective tissue of our voice box. Inhale. Om. Namaste. Thanks for practicing with me. I hope you have a juicy day.